Michael, how are you, my friend? How excited are you at the start of this week each year?
It's always my favorite week of the year because it's my favorite event, and getting to come here every year is just even more special, Matt. And I feel like brand new every time I come. I can't say that about the other events I go to, but every time I come here, it almost feels like the first time.
You know, I knew you would do this because you're you. You kind of set it up perfectly for this mindset that I had sitting here this morning, which is everything about it, from the coverage that you guys do to the way that we run through the week, the streaming coverage and the options, all of it. There's something about the Masters that feels like it does everything better than everybody else. And what I'm trying to figure out is, do you think that's real? Or is that just because we've been starved for a major from the end of the Open last year at Royal Troon? We have to wait through the cold, hard, icy winter, and now we get to April, and this kind of feels like this is the start of the warm season, and the flowers and the azaleas have bloomed again. Am I on the mark there with something? Is this more emotional, or is it also just stone cold pragmatic?
Well, I mean, there is the element of absence makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, that is absolutely true. But the thing about Augusta National, I think they are the perfect blend of excellence and tradition, right? Everything they try to do is top tier. Everything they try to do is top tier, okay? So when that is always your goal, even if you don't reach perfection, you're going to reach excellence. And that is the case with Augusta National in terms of how the golf course looks, the way things are run. That is their goal in every regard there. And so that just adds to the overall quality of the event and the way it embraces tradition like no other sport really, or excuse me, no other event in sports embraces tradition quite the way Augusta National does. And you just feel all of it, whether you are a patron on the grounds, a player on the course, or in my case, a broadcaster on the coverage. Like, you feel all of that. And it is one of one, as Scott Van Pelt likes to call it. I've covered other majors. I've covered every other major sporting event in America, and I've been to 2 Olympics. There's only one Masters, and it is just as simple as that. There's only one Masters.
If we cast our minds back a year ago, Michael, the storyline primary coming into the Masters, and rightfully so, was Scottie Scheffler. The tear that Scottie Scheffler was on throughout 2024 was something of historic proportions. What he did at Augusta National, too, something that will be etched in the history books, especially because he did it a couple of times within a short span. How much is it different in 2025? How much is that still a primary storyline? Is it number one? And what are the storylines as you're coming in that you have yourself ready to discuss accordingly?
Was the world number one player, Scottie Scheffler is always going to be a topic of conversation. There's no question about that. I mean, it's completely different than last year, though, Matt, because he hasn't won yet, right? He played so well coming in here last year, then it was like, oh, yeah, Scottie's going to win again, because why wouldn't he? Right now, you're wondering, when is he going to win again? Because it's been a while, considering how well he's played the last couple of years. But I think the way Scottie was playing coming in here last year kind of resembles the way Rory McIlroy's coming in this year. This may be the best he's played coming into Augusta in his career, at least in a few months leading up to the actual event. 11th time now he's going to try to close out this career Grand Slam. He's got 2 wins here in 2025. He's got some top 10s as well in other events. I don't know how anyone, based on what we've seen recently, would pick anyone above him. Now, you want to pick Scottie because he's Scottie and he's the number one player in the world, fine. But number 2 is Rory, and no one's played better than Rory McIlroy coming here to a Masters week.
Yeah, it sounds like you and I are of the same mindset relative to Rory McIlroy, because when you look at his baseline stats from 2024 to this point were pretty darn impressive in Rory McIlroy. They're even better in 2025. And when you add in the fact that he's never come in with multiple wins as he enters Augusta National, yeah, I agree with you. The big question with Rory, and I had this debate the other night on Golf Central with one of our analysts, their theory was that Rory's going to have this scar tissue. And I said, would you, based upon what we saw at Pinehurst last year and the closing stretches and have it, to which my question is, okay, what if it's a Rory that's not leading, but what if he is the hunter instead of the hunted? What if he's one shot behind and has more of an aggressive mindset and instead of trying to nurse a lead? Would that negate if there is, in fact, and I think us as media guys, right, Michael, we tend to apply these type things and saying, oh, he has scar tissue. So I'm just curious your observation on the same.
Well, I mean, it's easy argument to make that he has scar tissue. Why would he not? The question is, how tough is that scar tissue here in 2025 than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago? That's the real question. And what has happened to Rory McIlroy and his game since then that would not be as big of an issue? That would be my contention if I'm arguing against it. He's gone through too many other things in his life on the golf course and personally to dwell on something that happened when he was in his early 20s, quite honestly. I think his game is better now than it has been in years past to come here and try to complete his career Grand Slam. So I don't really think it would matter that much, Matt, if he's behind or leading if he got to the case coming into the final round on Sunday. I just think he's a different guy. I think he can win from either position because we've seen him do that already this year from either position. He is just better now than he was 5-6 years ago in so many aspects of his game that he's my pick. Now, anybody can win here. Well, not anybody. There's a lot of people that can win here. So if he doesn't win, I wouldn't say it would be, that big of a letdown. But if he's going to win, this is the best opportunity in the last several years for him to do so.
Do you have, I'm sure you get asked these questions when you're going through airports and all the rest. Do you have a kind of a pick already, Michael, with someone that you would say, kind of my dark horse for 2025 at the Masters? And I hate using that phrase. I realize, you're in the Masters field. How much of a dark horse are you really? But who would you put in that category, if you will?
Well, I guess it depends on how far down you want to go and how dark is that horse going to be. I think Tony Finau is going to win a Masters. Everything about his game suggests he should win here, but he hasn't played well here in 2025. So odds are he would not be a top selection right now. And you have to consider some of the things that have happened trend-wise, Matt, in the last few years, is that you've got to hit greens here, right? So 13 of the last 15 champions have ranked in the top 7 in greens and regulation during the week, right? So how good is your ball striking coming into the week? 20 of the last 30 champions have had a top 10 finish at Augusta before winning it for the first time. So you have to have history here of playing well, and you got to get off to a good start. Each of the last 19 winners have started with a round under par. So what's your scoring average on tour right now? So if you put all those together, there's only so far down the list you could go for a real dark horse. Tony Finau would definitely be one of my guys in that regard. But I'd also give a shot to Victor Hovland, who's played here well. In the past. At least he's been, he's had the lead after 18 or 36 holes in the past. Colin Morikawa has had no miscuts here in 5 appearances, inside the top 10 each of the last 3. He's a guy that could play here. It's just a matter of based on their history, how far down you want to go and how dark of that horse you want to put in that race.
Yeah, Tony, I'm not as much on board with because I think that his putter tends to reveal some demons every now and then. But if he's on song that week, if he's even average with his putting, which is hard to say at Augusta National, then I agree with you that he could contend.
Exactly. Like things have to fall into place for him for sure. Yeah.
My guy that I think everybody's ignoring is Sepp Straka. You look at Sepp, and it's like he's already won this year. His odds are what, 60-1 coming in? And I think Sepp Straka, with the way that he's playing and the form that he has right now, is one to keep an eye on. Anyway, I do want to ask you about ESPN and what you guys are doing. Hey, before I get into that for this week, what have you heard around the hallways at work in terms of the TGL and how that worked out for ESPN? Did it meet everybody's expectations or exceed?
Yeah, and here's the deal. There's different expectations. So you have the audience expectation in terms of fans. You have our own internal expectations based on programming, right? So as far as the fans are concerned, the golf fans, at least when I was watching it myself and then kind of listening to the chatter on social media, it was a big hit, especially the way it ended. I mean, that last night, the championship was phenomenal. The ratings were really good in that regard, so you tell you there was interest. And from our standpoint, this takes you inside the business, and I know a lot of people at home that really care about this. For us, it is about programming. So a Monday or Tuesday night leading up to the NCAA tournament, those nights, coming out of the Super Bowl and NFL, like sometimes those could be pretty dead nights for us in terms of our programming. But TGL filled a nice void there, and from a programming standpoint, to give us content, so to speak, but also to pull in a pretty good number, right, for those nights compared to what we may have had in other college basketball games through the year. So in year one, I'd say it was a success. I know there's some changes are going to come for year 2 in terms of how things are done with it. They're going to may change some of the rules itself. And also from our coverage standpoint that, obviously we're always trying to look to improve. But the job that was done, I think from our standpoint this year with Matt and Marty and Scott and everyone was involved, I thought it was top tier. And hope the fans liked it at home as well.
Yeah, when you talked about the fan reaction and also your internal reaction, the two sides of that sheet, did you guys get demographic information? Do you know if it was successful in one of the objectives of bringing in a younger audience? It would seem to me that it was, but did you hear anything on that perhaps?
I personally have not heard any of those specifics. Just gauging on social media interest, you would think it would be there.
Yeah, I would think so. I thought it was a really cool way to display the players. I've always had the same philosophy, Michael, is that if it matters to them, then to me as a fan and a journalist, it matters to me. I felt the same way about the FedEx Cup, the playoffs where some people would roll their eyes initially. I'm like, yeah, but if you've been in the parking lot when a guy slams that trunk, he's not happy about going home. It means a lot to them. And I thought with TGL, we got to see a side of the players that we don't normally see, having fun and laughing. It felt more like you and I going out and playing around at golf. You know what I mean? It just yuck it up. So it's cool. ESPN this week, 2025 Masters. What have you guys got in store for us?
Well, I'll say this. Augusta National over the last few years has been very gracious with giving us a little more access every time we ask for it, as well as CBS, and this year is no exception. We have our traditional coverage. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of coverage on SportsCenter throughout the week, as you normally do. We have our two-hour preview shows or practice round shows on Tuesday and Wednesday. You'll see those on ESPN Plus. We have the par 3 contest, obviously, SportsCenter at the Masters on Wednesday after the par 3, which I will host, and then our coverage on exclusive coverage Thursday and Friday. And then into the weekend, everything's on ESPN Plus, from feature groups to feature holes, all that stuff you'll see on ESPN Plus. And even for those casual fans and people who are maybe just getting into the golf world and aren't necessarily day-to-day players but love the lifestyle aspect of it, we've got Welcome to the Masters over the next several days, hosted by Laura Rutledge, leading into our coverage all through the week as well. So we have a little bit of everything, I believe, in terms of giving the diehards the access that they want, but also people on the outside or just on the fringe, like my wife, who love the lifestyle aspects of golf. We have something for them as well. And I'm looking forward to it as always, and I know we are, because it's a huge event for us and everyone who comes down there, from Matt Berry to Marty Smith to Laura Rutledge to Scott Van Pelt, Jeff Darlington. We all look forward to it. And this is our favorite week to work, right? Like, we get to do some cool stuff in our lives. And sometimes it is a job because you have to go somewhere you don't want to go. Everyone wants to come here. So this work week is long, but it's an easy one for those who love it.
Michael, you are the best. I love catching up with you. I love getting your insights. I'm super excited about hearing you this week. I tell you this every time I see you, that to do an interview that lasts somewhere between 30 seconds up to, say, 90 seconds on average, and to ask insightful questions that provide us sitting at home watching and listening insights that we cannot otherwise or would not otherwise have gotten, is an incredible talent and skill, and you are excellent at it. So I can't wait to see you doing your stuff over the next few days.
Matt, you're far too kind. All of my interviews are good only because I get good answers. So I appreciate you saying that.
There's a step involved there. My friend, good luck this week. Have fun this week. And we appreciate your time.
All right, take care.